Welcome back to Three Acorn Bourbon. Really excited about today's episode. Got another wheated bourbon here out of Buffalo Trace. It's my first whiskey from the Van Winkle line, and I'm really excited about it. I've heard it's supposed to be similar to the Weller 107 Antique, with a very similar, if not identical, mash bill. However, it's aged 10 years, whereas the Weller 107 Antique doesn't have an age statement, but we think it's like 6 or 7 years. And the Van Winkle family have a whole bunch of tasters that go through the Weller barrels and pick which ones should be Van Winkle whiskey. So really, this should be like the best Weller 107 Antique, aged an additional 3 or 4 years, which sounds pretty good to me. The Van Winkle distillery officially dates back to 1935 when Julian, Pappy Van Winkle, founded the Stitzel Weller Distillery. The distillery produced some iconic brands like Old Fitzgerald and W.L. Weller, whose positive critical acclaim would later pave the way for the success of the Van Winkle whiskey lineup. Pappy Van Winkle whiskey is now overseen by Julian Van Winkle, who's the grandson of the founder. He's credited with reviving and rebranding the whiskey to the highly acclaimed status they hold today. Pappy Van Winkle whiskeys tend to be aged much longer than traditional whiskeys. There's a 15, a 20, and a 23 year, and those whiskeys are aged at least that long, with some reports claiming the whiskeys are aged much longer. Now, the Van Winkle whiskeys are produced in extremely limited quantities every year. Now, that scarcity, combined with the exceptional quality and high demand, drives up prices, makes them highly sought after by bourbon enthusiasts. Now, the Van Winkle whiskeys are known for their wheated mash bills, but there is a rye expression in the Van Winkle whiskey lineup. This rye expression, the Van Winkle Family Reserve Rye. We'll have a review on this one coming up. Really excited to get into that one as well. For the bourbon itself, the Old Rip Van Winkle is often called Pappy 10 Year. While it is in the Pappy Van Winkle whiskey lineup, that technically isn't the correct name. Only the 15, 20, and 23 year expressions have the Pappy Van Winkle name on the label. This one just has the Old Rip. Now again, you can just say Pappy 10, but there are some people out in the community that'll jump down your throat for using the Pappy name on a Pappy 10. Those people need to go outside. I don't know what to tell you. You can call it Pappy 10. It's not a big deal. Just know that some people think it's a big deal. And they're wrong. Call it whatever you want. Now, like I said earlier, every barrel of the Old Rip Van Winkle starts off as a Buffalo Trace wheated mash bill. Same thing as Weller. And that wheated mash bill contributes to a smoother and sweeter taste profile when compared to more rye-heavy whiskeys. The Old Rip Van Winkle whiskey is bottled at 107 proof. Now that's an homage to back when a bunch of distilleries used 107 proof as their barrel age proof. Same thing for the Weller Antique 107. Old Rip 10 is the baby of the Pappy Van Winkle whiskey lineup, aged for at least 10 years. The bottle is adorned with a picture of Rip Van Winkle. It's a character from Washington Irving's short story published in the early to mid 1800s. I looked into the story, but I haven't actually read it. Now, I'm not sure if the Van Winkle family liked the story, or they just thought it was a cool coincidence that they shared the same name. Pappy Van Winkle whiskeys have been mentioned in many movies and TV shows, including Billions, Entourage, and How I Met Your Mother. And in 2021, a bottle of Old Rip Van Winkle auctioned for $437,500. Not a bottle like this. It would have been some rare, limited, historical bottle with some really cool provenance. I don't know the whole story, but it's kind of cool. All right, we covered the distillery. We covered the whiskey. Let's get into the tasting notes. Can you tell I'm a little excited? All right. Let's start with the nose. It's sweet and spicy, it's vanilla cream, it's caramel, it's pecan pie, it's a little buttery, it's a little fudgy. I'm getting ripe fruit, it's cherries, oranges, a little bit of peach, dark and rich honey, toasted oak. It's got a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of clove. You get a nice complexity and like a burnt sugar, toasted marshmallow. My favorite aroma I get in bourbon is a cola smell, like a cherry Coke. And this one's got it, and it's really nice. And then throughout the smell, there's this really delicate, kind of hard to place floral note. It's welcome, it's complex, it's interesting. Wow, I mean, it's excellent. All right, moving on to the palate. First sip of Van Winkle whiskey. All right, first things first, it's medium to full body. It's got a nice oily mouthfeel, really coats the whole palate. There's an intense ripe and dried fruit. It's cherry, it's raisin, apple, citrus, apricot. Get some nice toasted notes, like a lot of pecan. There's cinnamon, black pepper, nutmeg, and clove. A good amount of barrel char. And you get this nice flavor of the cherry pipe tobacco. I mean, it's honey, it's molasses and nougat. It's a very decadent bourbon. It's sweet, it is delicious, it's well balanced. It's got some big, bold flavors, and as you continue sipping, more flavors emerge. I mean, it's a real treat. All right, let's do the finish. The finish is long and smoky. It's very fruity. It's got a lot of cherries and oranges, a lot of cinnamon and oak. There's a nice honey sweetness, and then that fades back into this cherry pipe tobacco. And you get that roasted marshmallow, that burnt caramel, almost like a creme brulee. I mean, faultless. I mean, whether you love this whiskey, you one day want to try this whiskey, or you hate the hype, there's no denying that Old Rip Van Winkle 10-Year is a delicious and iconic whiskey. If you like Weller 107 Antique, you're going to absolutely love this. If you like wheated bourbons generally, you're going to love this. I mean, if you like bourbons generally, you're going to love this. Is it worth the hype? Probably not. But if you have the money and you have a chance to taste it, highly recommend it. It's a little early to say, and I hate to fall victim to recency bias, but this might be my favorite bourbon. I mean, maybe that shouldn't be a surprise, but God, it's just so good. Well, that's all I wanted to cover today. First foray into the Van Winkle whiskey line. Man, what an introduction. I can't imagine what that 15, 20, 23 years are like. Hopefully one day I'll have a chance to taste them. But as of right now, I'm very happy with my Old Rip 10. So remember everyone, whiskey, it's made for sharing. So open your bottles, make some memories, and I'll catch you in the next one.